I wanted something that would hold all of my campaign notes and also was local. And if the service went away, I could still use my note. So I settled on Obsidian and using Markdown. If you don't know Obsidian, Obsidian is a note-taking app, kind of like Notion. You can find it all at obsidian.md. And the beauty of writing in Markdown is that you can open those files in any text editor and still be able to read what's going on. First thing you want to do, go to my GitHub, download the Vault. I have lots of instructions about how to install. The first thing you're going to do is go over here under Releases, and then you can download it right from here. Click this, it'll start the download. It's a zip file. Do what you do with zip files. Put it somewhere on your computer. And remember where that location is, because that's where you'll want to point Obsidian once you, after you install Obsidian, you want to get it to a vault. I also have instructions on how to do just that. And then all the instructions below this point are all contained in the vault. So you can either read them here or they're included with the vault because I'm a nice person. If you want to read them, they're all here in general. There's extra things in the instructions of the actual vault itself, but basic setup, things like that. And then a license. Just if you use it and decide to do things with it and release your own version, just give me a little credit. That'd be great. Once you've downloaded the vault and unzip the folder on your hard drive and you have Obsidian and you point Obsidian at that folder, you should get something like this. Now, the side view here you may not get with a new thing. You can open it and it's the outline of vault setup option right up here, and then you get this handy little outline. Usually keep it that way, and you'll find you have instructions, name of campaign, copy this folder, and the template. And if you haven't used Obsidian before, to get to your vault, you want to either manage vaults, or if it's your first time opening Obsidian, you'll have a window like this pop up, and you'll want to open folder as vault, click open, and then point it at the TTRPG Campaign Vault folder, wherever you unzipped it on your hard drive, and it'll open this, and you'll have the instructions, the name of campaign, copy this folder, and template. So instructions, these are just the images you'll see, so you can ignore that. But if you start at one, vault setup, this is what I use. You use whatever you're comfortable with, but usually I turn off readable line length. That's in the editor tab, and you get to those by going down here to the little gear, click the gear, get this window pop up. Get this window pop up and editor and readable line length. Now what this does is it moves everything over to the left instead of everything in the middle, which I prefer. And then I also go into core plugins and I turn on slash commands right here. And that way when I'm in a note, I can just hit backslash and have the commands pop up for me. So if those sound good, and then you can adjust Obsidian however you want to use it. And at the very bottom here, keyboard commands. So to make a new note, it's Control-N or Command-N if you're on a Mac. And if you want to open the command palette at any time without using slash commands, just hit Control-P or Command-P. That'll open your command palette. And once you have a new note, you can search for templates, insert template, and you can use the template listed here. And I have using the vault. And I wanted to make something that was useful for players and DMs. It used as few folders as possible, and most of the organization came through Obsidian properties, tags, and bases. I want to be able to play, so that's why I developed this. I start off with your campaign outline for your world, then you make adventures, and then you have sessions based on those adventures, or you can skip the adventure part completely if you don't want to. Up to you, and just do sessions. I want to make it useful for both players and DMs so that you can copy the information as your players reveal it and have a structure for them to get the new information as they play through the game, and also using Obsidian properties, tags, and bases to help organize everything. And the first step you're going to do is copy this folder right here. Right click, make a copy. That easy. And then you'll name this whatever you're going to name your campaign. Now you have preserved an original, if you will, of the vault, and then everything you need is in your campaign, name of your campaign folder. So you always have an original to go back to. You have your campaign outline, adventures, and sessions, and I've given you outlines for the campaign, adventures. So if you have a name of an adventure, name it whatever you want here, and then add a note, and you can use the adventure outline. So let's start with campaign outline, and we have what properties up here. One of the ways you can organize your folder. So design by complexity, if you want to do that. What adventures take place in this campaign? What sessions cover it? You can fill those out as you go along. Any tags you want, and if you want other properties to later search by, just click the add property button. Then make an overview of your campaign. And I think having 3 main antagonists will set you up pretty well. So name them, give a brief description, what their primary goal is, who are the forces for this antagonist, and who's against them. Is it the party? Is it some other kingdom? And so make 3. And then your campaign pillars. What are sort of the things you're guaranteeing the players about the campaign? What is this structure? What are, maybe you put in house rules, or maybe you add a couple of your lines and veils in here. Whatever you want to do, just give yourself some structure. Then your inciting incident, what kicks off the campaign. You can write it here, give yourself a paragraph or so. The first thing you're going to have the players be doing, put that here. And then connection question. So ask your players how they connect to the world, or how they want to connect, and any other questions that come up during session 0. You have a space for that. Like in my home game for Shadowdark, I had a player, and I told all my players they could have a home city, and they sort of designed that. So I would put, that character name plus the home city name here, and how that's part of the world. And for adventures, again, you have this handy folder all set for you to go. You just name it whatever you want to call your adventure. And I have an adventure outline. Again, we have properties. Sometimes this is also called front matter. Then you fill in the adventure title, just like you're having an adventure book. Key moments, background, key NPCs, list the monsters. And then I wanted to have a flow of sections where normally you would see, the gray box of text or other tables and charts and things like that. But I wanted to keep this text light, and so I came up with a scene text key. And so anytime I see a section that begins with a pipe and a capital letter, I know I need to stop, and that's a different section. So with the pipe and the D, NPC dialogue, D for dialogue, pipe G, GM info for game prep, pipe R, read aloud text, pipe T is any of the other text you would see in an adventure that helps describe the things that the GM or DM would need to know. Then you fill out whatever the name of the scene is, key moments of the scene, and a scene description of what's going on. And that's where you start adding in some of these text keys. And if you want to see a demo of that, well, I have one right here. Packing pachyderms, key moments. This adventure doesn't exist. It only exists as this little bit, but if you want a sample of what I was thinking, I give you one. Again, if you don't normally use adventures for your campaign, that's fine. You can not do that and go right to sessions. And I have a folder for your session 0. So any plans you make notes, put them in session 0. And then your first session, put whatever you want there. And I give you a session outline where you have recap. So you might want to recap on your session 1. You might want to recap your session 0. A summary of what's going to happen. And then you break down this particular session into 3 parts. Just give yourself a brief outline of what's going on. Then you list the NPCs, the monsters, treasure, and any secrets you want to reveal during the campaign. You may be wondering, well, what do you do for all the things like monsters and everything? So the monsters, you put their notes in the session 1 folder, and any magic items as a separate note goes in the session 1 folder. Again, you're making templates, so an NPC template, character template, use whatever one you want, and you put them, and so you're just putting in what's needed for that session in this folder. And then I also give you a place for secrets, and so you can have your secrets master list. You can have locations have a secret, people secret, monster secrets, magic item secrets, and you can just list them here. There's a couple lines of text, nothing huge. And then as your players find them, since you have a note with that item already, you can just add the secrets as they're revealed to that note. And then if you have maps, you can store them here in the maps folder, and any rules references for whatever game you're playing here. Like there's some D&D rules that I just need visual reference to. So I have them and I place them in here. And then we get to player info, which is slightly different. So once players have gone through a session and have been to a town or city or whatever, it goes into the world folder. Characters, as they meet them, the NPCs go in here. I give you 2 NPCs examples, Cheeky McButts and Thomas Tank Engine. Have idea. However you want to keep track of characters is up to you. And then there's a section for good NPC names. Thanks. Then there's a section for your characters or your players to have a spot for their characters, and they can write all their notes on their characters' things. And then as you go through your sessions, the monsters go into the monster folder, magic items go there, maps there. If your players want to take any session notes, that's what this is for, player session notes, and also whatever rules references you want available to your players, because sometimes DM references and player references are not always the same, so you can make the call there. I highly suggest you read through the instructions. It'll give you a lot more context on everything. I have this flow chart here that I really like. Go from campaign outline to adventures or to sessions, and then that information goes to your player info. Use properties in each note to categorize them. And then, your player info, does it belong in world, characters, monsters, or magic items? And then I go through the template outlines, so the campaign, the adventure, and session outlines, discussion on organization, how to use backlinks to help connect your notes to other notes. So if you give an item to Cheeky McButts, you can use double brackets around Cheeky McButts, and that will say you give Cheeky McButts a wand of magic missile, and you want to say that they have it in the magic missile item. So you do double brackets, you type in the name of the PC or NPC, and then that will always link back to that character note. And then base is what Obsidian calls databases, and I give you a sample database as well up top here under databases, just above DM info. So if you want to see how to make a database, what they look like, here's one. And you can play with the filters and the properties and sort it all out. I also give you the direct links in how to, the direct Obsidian links for the official explanation of all these things. And if anything isn't clear, give me a shout. I'll help you out. We go through how you're going to organize this and using properties and how to build properties in a note, how to create bases. And then we get into sharing the vault. Now, how you do this is completely up to you. So you can sync your vault with a service like SyncThing, or you can use Obsidian Sync, or do what I do and use a service called Screen.Garden. Or you can take, if you have a Google Drive folder, for example, just take the player info, copy that to the Google Drive, and then update it as you will, because every note you make is just another markdown file in your folder. You can go into use Explorer. So I'm on Windows, so I'd use Windows Explorer. Go into the Vault folder, and here's all the files, and I could just copy them to whatever cloud drive I wanted. Or if you wanted to create some sort of syncing, you can do that. What I like about Screen Garden is that I can decide to just show my players part of the vault. So for my home game, my players don't see DM info. They only have access to whatever is in the player info folder. This is all they see. And the other thing about Screen Garden is that my players don't need Obsidian. They just need to connect to Screen Garden, and they can type in details that they need in Screen Garden and use it there. So if you were to use something like Google Drive, it'd put it in the folder, and you would have to, migrate the data back and forth. But it's up to you. There are more ways of sharing your vault than what I list here. I just picked 3 that you could do it. So also make sure what you're sharing is just the player info with them. Don't share the DM info. That's your stuff. And then where did my mouse go? There it is. Then I have inspirations for all this and the Creative Commons license. So just to note everything, Daggerheart by Darrington Press and their campaign frame ideas. Dread Dungeon Nomicon by Raging Swan Press. I like some of their adventure ideas. Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, of course, adventures and rules and all that. Kay came up with an awesome idea that I implemented in the campaign outline, was the campaign pillar section. So when you see that title, you can thank Kay. Capano, that's what the CEO of Obsidian goes by, made a blog post about using notes in Obsidian. And so his blog post, along with things from personal knowledge management systems, PKMs, and things like that, really led to the using as few folders as possible and using backlinks and properties and bases, other features of Obsidian, to create the connections between things and for organization, and not to have hundreds of folders that you have to go through for everything. Also, the way Shadow Dark does things, I got inspired by that. And then Sly Flourish. I watch a lot of videos, Sly Flourish. I have books like Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master, so that also did it. And then the Creative Commons license under 4.0. So if you want to do something with this and release it on your own, just give me credit. Put this line here. That'd be awesome. Otherwise, I don't really care. It's your vault, essentially. And then I just have an about thing, which gives you information about me, where to support me, where to watch my stuff. Do that. If you want to see this develop further, donate to the Ko-Fi, because I did all this on my own time. And, I will be making changes to it and updating the GitHub as I want to. But if you want to see really big expansions to this, donate to my Ko-Fi. Or coffee, however you want to say it. That'd be fantastic. All right. And so that is the vault. And even if you don't like Obsidian, there's still a structure. You can still look at the folders. And feel free to use that same structure in another note application, or build it out yourself in something. But it's designed to be used with Obsidian, because if you've been at this channel at all, I think Obsidian's great. You know this. And I use Obsidian for everything, and so why not my TTRPG things too? Again, I use Obsidian mostly because 1, it's free, 2, it keeps everything local, 3, if Obsidian goes away, I still have all my files, I still have access to my Markdown files, I can open them in any text editor. Even if they don't understand Markdown, I can still figure out what's going on in the file. And yeah, I would need Obsidian things like maybe the backlinks and the bases and things like that, but I would have the core of the information. I've tried other things, and I'm like, oh, this is a lot. Other programs, and I'm like, I don't want to go through all this. So I built something that was convenient for me, and hopefully it's convenient for all of you, and also to get you playing. I didn't want to spend a whole bunch of time. Building the world and then never get to play with my friends, because the point of a role-playing game is to play with your friends. And so I needed something that made it so I could get to that point in a shorter amount of time. Now, there's nothing wrong with building out your world if you have a fairly complex world and maybe you already have an Obsidian vault for it. You can also just add the campaign outline to your world vault and fill out the things that you want to from there. But this is designed so that I'm only doing a little bit of world building at a time, and that way my players get to inform that world, and I can change things around as they play, and maybe they have a better idea for something, and I can add that into my notes and change it around and go, nope, that's a better idea. Let's add that, because it's your play space and your player space. It's everyone's story together. And so I also want to encourage that as you went around as you thought about your campaign and the world you're building and the stories you're telling with it. Ooh, hat change. Cue Final Fantasy job change music. Yeah. Glad you said you're releasing it tomorrow, because it's like, did I miss the link? No, not yet. Yes, build out basics and then see what the players want to do. Painting in details as you go, not making an entire world before they can get in there, right? Yeah, and there's still going to be some things that players don't get to or anything, but that kind of also reduces that down, and you have more of a interest. You have more of player interest in what's going on in the world. So when it releases, download, enjoy, tell me what you think. That'd be great. And if you're watching any of this on YouTube later, like and subscribe. That helps. They're down there somewhere. Do the things. All right. Thanks for being here.